Today we are learning Cramer's rule. So again, this rule is not in your book, so I need you to take really good notes. I'm taking this video so you can refer back to it. So you can also type in Cramer's rule online. You can find all sorts of information, things like that. Okay, I want to teach this to you because this is part of your unit. This is the way that you can solve these systems. Now, Cramer's rule does use matrices, which is plural for a matrix. And all matrices is a fancy name for a list. It just helps organize numbers and things really carefully in that list. And then, say I have a list from year 1 and a list from year 2. I can add those lists together super quickly. Or I can multiply them together, I can divide, I can do all sorts of stuff. So they're just helpful organization tools. Now, when you get into Algebra 2, there are really cool things that you can do with matrices. Cool thing number 1. Right now, we are talking about a 2-variable system. That was an algebra. 3-variable system is V, which is we have left, right, we have up, down, and back and forth. 3D. It's very confusing to that. So Cramer's rule is probably my favorite way to do a 3x3 system. So I want to teach it to you, so that way when you get to Algebra 2, you can be like, I know Cramer's rule, that's so cool. The second thing that's really cool in Algebra 2 that you can do with matrices is that sometimes you have a triangle, and they are not right triangles. Those are easy to find areas of, right? You have base, and you have height. Or what if you have a triangle like this, and then they tell you the height of it? You can figure it out. What if it was like really catty corners, things like that? So what you can do is, in Algebra 2, you can figure out using the points, the coordinate points, and using matrices, you can figure out the area. So really cool things coming up for you. Now, matrices, this first guy right here, I have 1 row, and I have 3 columns. So he is a 1x3. So it always goes row by columns. So you know how to label it. So then I want you to think Ruby to your rows and pillar columns of 3 buildings. Help you out with that. So how many rows do we have on this guy? So he's considered 3 by 2. Now, we are only going to use 2 by 2s, which is like this guy right down here. 2 rows and 2 columns. And what we are going to do is we are going to use their determinants. And the word determinant means determine the value. And when we're determining the value, we drop those brackets and we make them into they look like actual value bars. So we drop these off and we make it, and that way I know you are trying to find the determinant. Because you can do all sorts of things to make these. But if you want the determinant, you just drop the bars. Now, finding the determinant is really simple. You guys ready? Yeah. Okay, here we go. 1.6. Always put a minus sign in between. 3 times 5 is equal. Boom! That's value. So how is that going to be helpful to us? So let's take a look at number 1. Now, I am not going to tell you how I'm going to get that first matrix. I want you guys to see it. You guys can see where I'm getting those numbers from. So I'm going to write down 50. I'm going to find the determinants. I'm going to drop them in brackets. Okay, so hands up. Put in your hands. Your students, to make sure you can see where I'm getting the numbers from. Ready? It's going to be really intense. 1, 2, -4, -1. Specifically, what's that? Coefficient of the variable. That's exactly right. Okay, go ahead, write that down. Correct. The first 2 were positive, but not negative. And now we are going to find its value. Here we go. 1 times negative 1. 2 times negative 4. Negative 8. Always a minus in between. Always. So it becomes a plus. Negative 1 plus 8. 7. Now, we are going to make another division. Or another, we're going to find them. I'll put this one in blue. How do you do so much? This one in red. This one's called D sub X. And when I say sub, like a submarine, you better put a bow. Subtext. What's the other name for sub? Substitute. Okay? So this means we're going to sub out the x's. Which column was the x's? The first or the second? The first. So we're going to substitute out that column. But I got to leave the negative 4 and then 1 in there. Negative 1. So what are we going to put in this place? What's the other set of numbers in your column? And now we're going to talk pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, here we go. Negative 26 times negative 1. 26 minus negative 10 times negative 4. 40. 26 minus 40. And now, here, one breath away from finding out what that is. Did you see that? Yeah, 7 is a factor of 14. So here's what's going to happen. X is going to equal that negative 14 divided by the 7 is negative 2. And you found that. If you can plug it in, we're going to have to find y. Just need that that's the sign. So yes, just plug it in. Now personally, when I do this rule myself, I always like to mention y first. And then plug it to x. I'll show you why later. But let's do D sub out the y. What do you think that sub out means? Which column are we going to sub out? The second column this time. So this time, you have to keep that 1 and the 2 on the left side. And then what numbers are we going to put on the right side? Okay, we're ready to go. 1 times negative 10. Minus 2 times negative 26. Negative 52. What's minus negative 52? Plus 52. Negative 10 plus 52. 42. Ooh, is it all good? Alright, so here we're one step away from finding our y. Y equals 42 divided by 7. 6. There's our point. Negative 2, 6. So I love this method for several reasons. So first off, you can get a fraction answer with this. But the only place to get a fraction answer is right here that it doesn't do. So you'll get integer, 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 and then your final fraction are your answers. So that's kind of cool. I know that sometimes we got a little frustrated because with that fraction in there with the substitution. Yeah, right. Who would think of that? So that being said, this is a great system for that. What else do I need to talk about? Sometimes your b value will be a 0. And if it's a 0, so if your big B comes out as 0, then that's going to tell you that it's either going to be no solutions or infinite solutions. And then do you remember how I taught you to look back at your equations to figure out if there's no solutions? Infinite solutions? And so that's one of the downfalls of this system. That sometimes you get 0 and you're like, oh, then I have to do that work. But you can also look at the original system and do that crisscross and determine if it's 0 or not. Really So this is the value, this guy is bigger than no, you always see the x guy. It's kind of like, watch this. You have the d sub x over d. You have the d's cross off. That helps you find x. D sub on the top. So the d sub x has to go on top. So if you break this, so you can get questions. If this guy was 5 and that guy was 20, you can have 24. There it is. It's going to be one of these two. You gotta look back. No, you don't have to do any of the other work. So if you get 0, stop, figure it out. So remember how we did we matched up? So it's almost like we started elimination, right? We matched up one of the variables and then the next one matched, the last one didn't. So it's independent, it's the these two matched, these two also matched, and the last one didn't, it's parallel, consistent, solutions. And if they all match, then what is it? Independent with infinite solutions. Good. All right, let's keep trying this out. Number 2. Ooh, what's cool about, well, what's different about number 2? There's no x. Okay, so what do you think we're going to put in this place? That's exactly right. If you want to write 0, I'll call it off. That's what your siblings did 3 years ago. They pointed off. Yeah, you did off today. All right, here we go. Big D. Who wants to try out my coefficients in the big D? You're going to read every column. Awesome. Let's do D sub out the x column. So the -1 and 3 go right there. So just remember what goes in that first column. Awesome. Let's do sub out the y column, which means if the x's stay right there, and this on what goes in the y column. Awesome. All right. Then, of course, there's the d sub x. U3, that's what we d sub y. And then Marcus said, go. Okay, how about d sub x? Yeah. 75? 73? Okay, so again, we have finding x. We take that number and put that over the t value, the t reduced. Isn't that nice? That's the only place to see that fraction. Okay, and then d sub y, we're going to do y equals 75 divided by 9. Is that one reduced? 7 plus 5 is 12. Does that reduce by 3? Yes. 75 divided by 3? 25 good. There's our answer. Isn't that a nice alternate fraction? Yeah, good rule. All right, one question and we're done. 48. Yes, yes. That number I've always been pretty good. 16 times 3 to 48. Has to go first. That was a good question. I think I got it. And then minus the negative. It has to go that way. Or else we'll get a lot of negatives. All right, number 3. All right, number 3. Here we go. Big D. Sister, what goes into big D? D sub out the X column. So if you sub out the X column, you still have that Y column right there. Just fill in what goes into the X column. Awesome. D sub out the Y column. So just have to leave the 2 and the 1 right there. Just defer what goes into the Y column. All right. This is at U3. You are going to find big D. U2 are going to find D sub Y. And then U3 are going to find D sub X. Go. About all right, now that we have those, we're only one step away. So what is the X value going to equal? Negative 8 divided by 8. What is the Y value? 4 divided by 8? 5. Awesome. All right, you are now going to do one on your own. Whoa, with that done. And please remember again, so far we've done all of these. They have them in proper order. It's always important. X's are lined up underneath, and the Y's, and the numbers. So, do this one and raise your hand. I'll run in a second.